Chris, what do you got there?
Well...
I didn't see the reset button. Didn't you say we were going to do our reset button episode today?
Okay, so I had been doing some shopping. I was on eBay. I think I got a pretty good deal on the, official reset button used on set.
That's pretty sweet. Did you leave it in the other room, or?
Your Tribble ate it.
The Tribble ate it.
They do like to eat.
Well,
I'm not sure how we're going to do this without a reset button.
Does the Tribble lease work? Greetings and welcome to the Prime Directive. I'm your host, Jeffico, and my co-host, as always, Chris. Say hi, Chris.
Hello.
Today we're going to be doing our top 10 reset buttons. Now, there's a lot of different ways to take this, but Chris, how are we going to do it today?
Yeah, so like you said, there's a couple different ways you can look at a reset button Star Trek episode. And so we're going to be doing both episodes where the whole plot of the episode was just erased by some sort of time travel nonsense, and you might as well have just watched nothing as far as the rest of the series is concerned. And also episodes where we get these huge technological developments or discoveries, and they're just never mentioned again.
What about Riker's girlfriends? I mean, so many episodes, he gets a new girlfriend, and it's like the writers forget about it the next episode.
I think that's just the writers having a good understanding of Riker.
He's my hero. How can you say that?
Well, let's get started then. Jeff, what's coming in at number 10?
Forces of Nature from TNG, with a brother and a sister group are complaining about the warp space terrors.
Captain, according to our research, warp fields cause a dangerous reaction in this region of space.
Our planet is already being affected.
Yeah, so the crew of the Enterprise ends up discovering that warp travel, especially at very high velocities, is damaging to the fabric of subspace, apparently. I'm putting this in at number 10 because we do get a couple off and on mentions of this speed limit that they put in place, again in TNG, but by the time DS9 and Voyager roll around, they've just completely ignored it.
Well, when war's on, I'm not really gonna follow the speed limit.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
Until we can find a way to counteract the warp field effect, the Council feels our best course is to slow the damage as much as possible. Therefore, areas of space found susceptible to warp fields will be restricted to essential travel only, and effectively immediately all Federation vessels will be limited to a speed of warp 5.
So one interesting little bit of trivia that sort of ties into this episode is if you've ever wondered why Voyager's nacelles sort of move up at an angle, according to the Season 1 edition of the Voyager Technical Manual, that's actually supposed to offset the damage to subspace that we talk about in this episode.
Wow, I didn't actually think there was anything cool about Voyager, but I did like the nacelles going up. I mean, other than the shape of the ship's kind of a warp saucer, and it's led by a captain that can't drive, and she doesn't know where she's going. She gets lost.
That's enough for your Voyager hate.
I don't know. All right, Chris, what do we got coming in for number 9?
At number 9, we have The Chase from Star Trek TNG. The Enterprise receives a visit from Professor Galen, who's one of Picard's old archaeology professors at the Academy. They end up being convinced by him to take part in an expedition and end up learning that all of the major races in the Alpha Quadrant were seeded by a single race.
Yeah, I remember every single race was chasing and trying to hunt this thing down because they thought there was some wealth, some prize, and this is here's a life lesson.
Yeah, oh my god.
The disappointment in all their faces.
The secret ingredient was love, Jeff.
There is something of us in each of you. And so, something of you in each other.
That's all?
The very notion that a Cardassian could have anything in common with a Klingon, it turns my stomach.
You would think learning that all of these major species share some base genetic structure and all have the same history would come up again.
Yeah.
Maybe once. But no, you never hear about this again.
That's kind of interesting because wasn't Galen the name of the archaeologist Picard was pretending to be with those mercenaries?
Oh yeah, the two-parter Gambit. I really did like that reference. That was a fantastic episode in itself.
Yeah, I liked Picard punching Riker.
So what do we got coming in at number 8?
City on the Edge of Forever.
Yeah. More specifically, we're talking about the Guardian of Forever in this episode. Possibly one of the most powerful artifacts we come across in Star Trek.
Yeah, anything you can travel through and end up in another place on a different planet or time is pretty powerful. I mean, it reminds me of the library in the TOS episode where Spock and Bones go to the ice planet.
Oh, yeah.
Or even the Iconians where Picard ends up on the Romulan ship because he's trying not to explode down on the planet.
Oh, yeah, and they just got, like, flipping through all those little Windows desktop screensavers until you get to the Romulan ship, yeah.
This single object is the source of all the time displacement.
Explain.
For this to do what it does is impossible by any science I understand.
Yeah, I believe City on the Edge of Forever, goes to the past and he runs into Edith Keller.
Yeah, yeah. Poor guy falls in love.
No, Jim!
Deliberately stop me, Jim. I could have saved her. Do you know what you just did?
He knows, Doctor. He knows.
Yeah, I guess in the 60s it wasn't quite so cliche to have to choose between the woman you love and Hitler coming to power.
Yeah, I bet Kirk wanted to hit the reset button on love. I mean, there were times in our lives where we make mistakes and, you just want to go back and hit that reset button, fix what you did.
Jeff, you promised me no more stories about her. Coming in at number 7, Voyager Equinox. And joining us for future reviews is going to be Porthos, who will be helping us out with this one and future content. This episode is, of course, the one where Voyager runs into another Federation starship, the Equinox, in the Delta Quadrant. And they've been using the corpses of another alien race to enhance their warp drive and get them home a little sooner. Of course, this race is not very pleased with that. And they start coming after Voyager and Equinox for revenge.
Yeah, they develop these characters, they've got this long transition to incorporate themselves into the Voyager crew, and we just never see them again.
Yeah, this isn't the first time we've had, people introduced into a starship crew and then never heard from them again, but I feel like this episode in particular, they go to such lengths to develop these characters, and they make such a big deal of Janeway allowing them to stay on board after the end of it, and it seems very strange that we just never see these people again.
Yeah, there were several cases in the other series too. You got Ensign Gomez from QQ. They gave her some lines, personality, and engineering job with Geordi, but then we never see her again. Commander Tomalak appears in a couple of episodes in quick succession in season 3, but then never see him again. Tasha Yar as the Romulan. I mean, she disappeared after a failed Vulcan invasion. Disappears. Phlox actually had a female crewmate who helped him in sickbay, but never came back. She develops feelings for him, but was nowhere to be found in season 2. Sadly, I actually heard the actress died in that one.
Oh. Yeah, but like we said, the weird part with this one especially was how much of a big deal they made out of these characters sticking around, and then you just never see them again.
Coming in at number 6, Star Trek Voyager, Threshold.
Alright, so this is the fan unfavorite episode, quite well known for being awful, where the Voyager crew discovers how to get to Warp 10 and occupy all places in space at once. This has the unfortunate side effect of turning you into a lizard, though.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of funny. Warp 9.9 just gets you really fast, but Warp 10, you're everywhere.
Yep.
Anything where Janeway turns into a lizard is an improvement for me, but the fact that Tom slept with her even in lizard form kind of disturbed me.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
I like that Chakotay finally phasered her, though.
I don't know how I'm going to enter this into the log.
Of course, what makes this the reset episode is that the Doctor actually figures out how to de-lizard them. And there was nothing else wrong with that technology. It worked perfectly.
I hope that ever happens to me, that we have that kind of technology to turn me back into a normal person.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I have absolutely no idea why the next episode they weren't sending shuttles full of people and the Doctor back to the Alpha Quadrant.
Or eating flies out of the air.
Yeah, why not? Coming in at number 5, our first Deep Space Nine episode, Blood Oath.
That's particularly a pretty good episode with lots of references to Curzon Dax and the blood oath that he took that Jadzia has to follow through on.
Mm-hmm.
They go down to this planet to kill the albino who's been, killing off all these Klingon guys' kids. And they come up with a rather interesting way to stop this outnumbered attack that they're going to deal with.
What if they had no phasers? That might make the odds a little better, don't you think?
How do you intend to disarm them all?
When we establish a low orbit, we modulate your disruptor banks to bombard the compound with tetrion particles. Every directed energy weapon would be neutralized.
That's a pretty nifty trick.
Yeah, I can think of some characters that might have benefited from that.
Especially during the DS9 war, like how many on-planet problems were there where you had to fight with disruptors?
Yeah, Nog would still have his real leg. Completely being able to turn off all the projectile weapons that we use in universe seems like something that maybe Dax should have shared with her commander.
Yeah, it's kind of a pretty big thing, I'd say. Coming in at number 4, Star Trek Voyager's Year of Hell, an actual good episode from Voyager.
This is, of course, the episode with the Krenim time ship that has the ability to completely delete people or objects from the timeline. It gets into this huge protracted war with Voyager, where over the course of the year, Voyager just gets completely ripped apart, losing all its bulkheads, dozens of crew members, the whole ship's just a complete mess. But, in standard Star Trek tradition, by the end of the episode, the Krenim time ship ends up deleting itself from the timeline and resetting an entire year.
Yeah, you could really feel it. Like, it was a 2-part episode, and they gave you so much time with Voyager just getting beaten down, worn down. I mean, Red Foreman as the captain was really breaking his foot off on Janeway's ass. You could see it. Though I felt every year I watched Voyager was a year of hell, to be honest. I mean, the worst part of it was when it did reset, Janeway came back. I mean,
Jeff,
it was a good episode, but
I've given you lots of opportunities to be nice about Voyager. Can we just...
if you want to do an entire episode on 7 of 9, I will say pretty things. Maybe even the Doctor. There are a few characters. But even a cool Tom Paris, they make him so bland and useless. They give him that love story with B'Elanna. Like, come on, Klingon.
You will drown in your own blood!
Alright, Chris, coming in at number 3, what do we got?
Yeah, our first installment in our top 3 here is going to be from TOS. It's Assignment Earth. Jeff, I can hardly do this justice. Why don't you just roll the clip?
Using the light speed breakaway factor, the Enterprise has moved back through time to the 20th century. We are now in extended orbit around Earth, using our ship's deflector shields to remain unobserved. Our mission? Historical research. We are monitoring Earth communications to find out how our planet survived desperate problems in the year 1968.
Yeah, so apparently we can just casually travel back in time.
I think they just kind of gave up because they're just like, oh, we're not getting renewed for season 3, so why don't we try to spin it off, and who cares about the continuity of Star Trek?
Just apparently that's a thing they can do. Is they've just got a time travel button down in the engineering room that they've never used to solve any problems before. Even that one time in The Naked Time where they did solve their problems by going back in time, but it was a big deal.
Yeah, well, they say history is written by the victors, but maybe it's written by Kirk, who just randomly on a Thursday decides, I'm going to go back in time and check out what happened back there so I can tell everybody in the future, because they don't already know.
Gotta be something like that.
Another good thing about that episode, though, is it had my cat girl in it.
No.
Coming in at number 2, we've got a couple episodes, both involving the transporters, Chris. Why don't you tell us which ones you like?
Yeah, so I think the biggest offender here has got to be at a TNG Season 2 Unnatural Selection, which is the episode where we restore an aged Pulaski back to her regular self with a pattern we get from a bit of DNA from her hairbrush.
We have a sample of your normal DNA to use as a filter in the transporter. We think that we can beam you aboard while filtering out any of the genetic problems caused by the disease. I think you should know this has never been attempted before.
So apparently the transporter is just the fountain of youth.
Yeah, the Holy Grail. You don't have to go on some big quest. You can just use your transporter to become young again.
Yeah, I see no reason that you couldn't save a bit of your DNA from when you're 28 and just refresh that every year.
Makes perfect sense. And isn't the other one Rascals, the TNG episode with the kids?
Yep, the 4 crew members. We got Ro, Picard, Guinan, and Keiko. Yes, all get de-aged in some sort of transporter accident back to children. Again, you know...
Mainly because they were missing a bit of their pattern.
Yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah.
I might be able to send them back through the transporter pattern buffer and replace the missing sequences.
I really enjoyed that episode. Not that it was a good one, but just sometimes you just enjoy the bad ones. But the Ferengi are taking over the ship, and you know they've got the kids running around. It's great. And,
yeah, Riker's got that wonderful one level above technobabble to confuse the Ferengi with.
Yeah, and you know a lot of people look up to Picard as a father figure, but I always kind of looked up to Riker.
I don't know if they'll let me, Jean-Luc, but I will ask.
Thanks, number one. He's my number one dad.
And this isn't even the first time we've ignored some of the universe-shattering implications of the transporter. We've seen it create duplicates of people with Thomas Riker.
Tuvix,
yeah, that's kind of a big deal. Apparently you can just use it to stick your pattern in there for 75 years.
Why don't we get into our next one? What's our top one?
All right, the number one most egregious use of the reset button in Star Trek history. Season 6, Relics. Relics is, of course, the TNG Season 6 episode with the Dyson Sphere and Scotty.
Yeah, it's always cool when we get an original cast member from the other series in there.
Yeah, lots of fun. So the big reset button issue here has got to be the Dyson Sphere itself.
In the 20th century, a physicist called Freeman Dyson postulated the theory that an enormous hollow sphere could be constructed around a star. This would have the advantage of harnessing all the radiant energy of that star, and any population living on the interior surface would have virtually inexhaustible sources of power.
So just the engineering required to build this is miles and miles beyond anything we've seen in the Alpha Quadrant or anywhere in Star Trek up until this point.
Even the Enterprise J, that was mostly theoretical but was mentioned in the Enterprise series, was only cities big.
Yeah.
And that was like another century ahead.
The interior surface area of a sphere this size is the equivalent of more than 250 million Class M planets.
So we do know that the Dyson Sphere is 200 million kilometers in diameter. And I wanted to figure out how much actual material would be involved in building this thing, let alone the engineering required in building it. Just how much stuff does this species need to get together to make this sphere? Just based on what we see in the episode, we don't get a good measure of how thick the sphere actually is. But I took a rather conservative guess and said it was at least 5 Enterprises thick, just based on what we see from the Enterprise being sucked into it. So if that's true, then we come to a total of 4.04 times 10 to the 26 cubic meters of volume. If that doesn't mean much to you, which it probably shouldn't, that is about 400,000 Earths worth of metal.
I was just coming off duty, and I wanted to see how you were doing.
Would you have a drink with me, Captain?
Thank you.
I don't know what it is exactly, but I would be real careful. It's real.
Aldebaran whiskey. Who do you think gave it to Guinan?
The episode itself is really good because it's all about Scotty fitting into a new time, but yeah, it's a big overlook and you never hear about it again, but the technology that went into this thing, like...
It's incredible, yeah. And of course that number that we put out there gets a lot bigger, a lot faster if the sphere is any thicker than that.
Well, that's it. That's our top 10 reset button episodes.
As always, thanks for watching, and if you think we missed a reset button episode, and we probably did, you can leave a comment below and let us know.
Oh, what you got there, Chris?